Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope you are well. I wanted to talk about a subject that has irked me for a little while now, because in the business of when I'm in the business of teaching and mindset coaching, and I help a lot of people. And along my journey of doing this sort of stuff, along my journey of personal development, teaching, coaching, training, and all this sort of stuff, I meet a lot of people that do not want to succeed. And I'm pretty sure you guys in this room, I'm pretty sure at least one or two of you have met people that reflect that kind of thing. People that don't seem like they want to succeed in life. People that seem to be messing up their life on purpose. Now, no judgment upon these people, no judgment at all. But I thought it might be a good idea to talk about this kind of behavior and talk about what it might be that gets in the way of people being happy with maybe making their life better. You know, has anyone here ever been in a relationship with somebody where it's obvious that they just want to mess everything up and they've got some kind of weird fear of succeeding in a relationship kind of context? You ever had a friend or a family member, it seems like they're just messing up their life constantly, constantly, constantly. They know better. They definitely know better. That's not the problem. It's not a lack of knowledge about the right way or the best way to approach situations. It's almost like a purposeful attempt to mess everything up on purpose. Like they know how to mess things up and they purposely go that way and they go in hard and they do it excellently. You know, so take a sip of my drink. So I just thought I'd go through a couple of reasons that over the years I've learned seem to be the underlying causes, most likely for fear of success. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm always trying to surround myself with people that do want to succeed, that do want a better life, that do want to continuously move forward, progress, so on and so forth. That to me seems like the dope way to go, right? Again, no judgment, because there are people that I know who I actually love and I care about, but there seems to be this really strong drive to screw things up. And sometimes when you have people like this, but you still love them, you still care about them, but it still makes you think, what's going on? Okay, reason number one. Some people fear success sometimes because they worry about the added responsibilities and pressure that come with success. Does that make sense? Some people worry about the responsibilities that they'll have, the pressure that they have. So some people don't want to succeed because they're worried that they'll have this extra pressure and responsibility. Makes total sense. So you got to ask yourself, if somebody's scared of responsibilities and pressure that come with success, what could you do to lessen that fear? If they're worried about these added responsibilities and pressure, what could you do? And again, this is a question that anybody could have a go at answering. But what could you do if you were helping somebody overcome the fear of added responsibilities and pressure? I wonder. Another reason that people might fear success is they fear the unknown and the changes that success might bring to their life. They fear the unknown and the changes that the success, whatever it might be, might bring to their life. By the way, when I'm talking about success, this could be any context you choose. This could be relationships, business, work. So some people fear the unknown and they fear the changes that success might bring into their life. And some people are scared of change. Because they're scared of change, they're scared of succeeding, so they'll automatically sabotage life because, well, they don't have to deal with change. Seems irrational, but it is what it is. A third reason that people might fear success is they might have a fear of failure after achieving success, fearing that they won't be able to maintain it. You know, what if I succeed and I actually succeed? After that, I might fail because I won't be able to keep it going. Ooh. That again, perfectly rational, especially if you know that you're somebody who's terrible at maintaining things. That's a completely rational thing. So some people fear success for that reason, and that is actually quite rational. I know some people that are really, really good at starting things, really, really good at getting things going. But if they had to keep it going, they would just suffer and struggle, and they just wouldn't be able to because of their underlying limiting limitations and beliefs and whatnot. Um, another reason that people might potentially fear success is they fear the massive fear of being judged or criticized by others once they become successful. Now, this is completely rational. If you're somebody who in your life you've been judged and criticized and it was scary or traumatic or whatever it might be, you're going to potentially have this image in your mind that, oh my God, if I succeed in life, everyone might be mean to me, everyone might be horrible to me, people might judge me, criticize me, all this sort of stuff. So again, think about what you could do to help somebody who has that. Somebody who's terrified of being judged and criticized by others if they become successful. What could you do to help such a person? Off the top of my head, just coming at things from an NLP perspective, I would get them to future pace. I would get them to imagine a time in the future when somebody is criticizing you, and imagine seeing yourself on maybe like a TV or a movie screen out in front of you, and imagine the person criticizing you and see your own behavior. Notice how you're behaving in this scenario. And if it's not the most perfect performance, keep changing the performance in your mind's eye until you're performing in the most amazing way. And just notice how that's different now, and just lock that in, anchor that feeling. That's right. Now step into that performance and imagine performing through your own skin and hearing it through your own ears and noticing how everything's so different. Blah, 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 blah. So there are ways using NLP to handle some of these things. Another reason that people fear success could be that they've got low self esteem and they doubt their ability to handle success. Maybe they look at celebrities or famous people and they think, you know what, I don't know if I can handle that. I don't know if I can handle the pressure of it. I don't know if I can handle success. So it could just be doubting their ability, low self esteem. So that could be the reason. Another reason that it could be, and I've seen a lot of this along my journey doing this sort of stuff, they could fear losing connections or relationships with others who might feel envious or resentful of their success. Now, I think to some extent, I think whether you're live in this room now or listen to the replay, this is something that we're all sort of aware of. You could become really, really successful, and the people that have been your friends, acquaintances, family, whatever it might be, who have known you while you haven't been successful, your friends and family could be the first people that start hating you and wanting to be nowhere near you because they're feeling envious because of their own low self-esteem around succeeding in life or whatever it might be. So it could just be that losing connections. And I completely get it. Once upon a time, I used to care a lot. I'm from a Jamaican background, raised in London, and many years ago, I remember thinking I don't want to go to university because my Black Jamaican culture here in London will disown me because I went and got an education, and in my subculture, getting an education is seen as a bad thing. I was afraid of getting a job at one point in life, getting a job in a career, being a trainer and these sorts of things, because I was afraid that people from my particular cultural community would want to disown me. These are very, very real fears. It's not even just a fear; it's like a knowingness, especially if you come from a culture where people will disown you if you do too well. Similarly around being an entrepreneur, the idea of being an entrepreneur, if it's not, again, I'm talking about my very specific subculture. This isn't all Jamaicans, by the way. That'd be me being racist towards my own culture. But some subcultures within Jamaica, well, not just Jamaicans, could be Italians, could be American, but in the sort of underclass gangster kind of environment or whatever it might be, you might be surrounded by and raised by and have a lot of people in your life who, if your entrepreneurism isn't selling drugs and doing some form of crime, they might hate you. So I remember a point in time where I was afraid of being an entrepreneur, getting an education, getting a career, having too much money, literally believing that people around me would just disconnect from me. And you know what? The day that I stopped giving a shit, the day that I stopped caring, the day that I said, you know what? I can't let that be the reason that I don't do things in life. My father had issues with me and he didn't like me when I started going and getting an education. My mother was laughing at me and didn't like me because I went and got an education. I became an entrepreneur. My sisters were laughing at me when I went to start getting an education in psychology, blah, blah, blah. And it was painful, can't lie. So a lot of people might fear success. I mean, I stopped caring. So I just started succeeding in all these domains. When I did a degree in psychology, started studying counselling, got a career as a trainer, working on behalf of the British government and Queen and Country, doing certain things, helping get people off government welfare, and yeah, I lost the connections with my family. But there was a point in my time where I said, you know what, my family can't be the thing that makes it that I don't live a full life. So I thought that was really, really important. That's why this subject is really important to me, because at one point I was that person. I had a fear of success for pretty much all of these reasons, really. I'm going to give you one more reason why people fear success. Um, uh, Somebody might fear success, or yeah, people might fear success because they might fear becoming disconnected from their roots or losing touch with their authentic self as they become successful. I've heard loads of people say, oh, I don't want to be too successful because I want to keep it real. I don't want to become too successful because I won't be me anymore. I don't want to become too successful because I might forget who it is I am and where it is I've come from. So that's tip number 7 as to why people might fear success. So I'm just going to quickly recap over those 7 things. So they might worry about the added responsibilities and pressure that come with success. They might fear the unknown and the changes that success might bring into their life. They might have a fear of failure after achieving success, fearing that they won't be able to maintain it. They might fear being judged or criticized by others once they become successful. They might have low self-esteem and doubt their ability to handle success. They could fear losing connections or relationships with others who may feel envious or jealous or resentful of their success. And last but not least, they might fear becoming disconnected from their roots or losing touch with their authentic self as they become successful. Now, if there is anyone in this room, or even if it's not in this room, if you are somebody who is aware of, or you become aware of somebody down the line in the future, somebody who seems to be terrified of success by the way that they're behaving or the things that they're saying, always have a think about what is it that you could maybe do to help the underlying issue, because fear of success isn't just about the success itself. It's all about some kind of effect that the success will have. And when I coach people who claim to want success, I usually have to coach the stuff that's underneath all of that. Because at the end of the day, if I'm coaching somebody to become more successful, I have got to look at the reason that's well, you're not successful already. You haven't been successful yet. What's the reason underlying that? And if somebody's not succeeded in a particular thing yet, whatever that thing may be, I find it useful to double check the ecology, to double check what could be that underlying thing that's getting in the way of the person wanting to succeed. And again, I care a lot about this subject because once upon a time, that was me. I was absolutely terrified years ago of doing multiple things. And again, the moment that I stopped caring about some of these things and the moment I started loving myself and loving the future version of me, all of these underlying fears just wiped away and I just went for it. Like people right now, if you're not already aware, right now I'm sitting in Southeast Asia. I'm sitting in the Philippines. It's 7:14 at night. So I'm well aware that for some of you, it is the morning on a Saturday, if I'm correct. For those of you in the United States. I'm over here because there's a guy who lives here who's a renowned NLP expert and hypnotherapist. God, I was talking Jamaican there. I'm a hypnotherapist. Got to pronounce my H's, TH. And yeah, I just felt like coming over here and hanging out with him, and me and him just literally spend time talking about hypnosis, professionality, coaching skills, the various different problems that come up when you're a coach, money, entrepreneurship, literally just sitting around for hours talking about that kind of stuff. I was hanging out with him yesterday. We were talking about these kind of things anyway. Tomorrow I'm going to meet him again and we're just going to talk about, we're talking about political philosophy tomorrow. That's going to be so much fun. Ah, well, I tell you, there's a couple of reasons I'm over here. So there's my friend, and plus I've got a clothing business where I create clothing here, and then I ship some stuff back to the UK, or smuggle some stuff back in my suitcase to save some shipping costs. And yeah, one of the reasons I'm over is to get away from talking to all the people that I usually talk to. Taking a break from the UK. There's a bit of a negative, depressing vibe blanketing the UK at the moment, which isn't very cool. So I'm over here chilling out, currently sitting in a room that's not too hot right now because I've got the aircon on full blast. Oh my god! But I'm happy, and I'm even happier because we've got Jordan on the stage. Jordan, welcome. What are your thoughts on the subject at hand?
Good morning. Well, morning over here. I think you said it's evening by you. So I was thinking about, just even not just what is preventing someone, the route that's preventing them from success, but what is each person's individualized, view of success? What is success to each person? Because success is going to mean something different to everybody. Success in one area of life might look like a failure to somebody else in another area of life. And I'm using air quotes with those because there's no real success or failure because it's all subjective. And if there's something, I guess it goes hand in hand because you have to define what success is in order to be able to realize what is preventing you or blocking you or creating resistance from reaching that goal. And I think for me in my life, it was also very important for me to recognize to give myself grace throughout my years because my definition of success is very different when I was a child versus what I am now. As my values and my morals have changed and I gained more life experience, things shift. And so something I think oftentimes, like something that I thought was maybe a failure was actually a success in disguise. It was something that I needed to get through in order to get me to the next step. And within those steps, I had to redefine success and failure many, 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 many times. And as I did that, I just became able to see things more neutrally. Things weren't really successful or failures, but rather they were just another experience to go through in life. And and I resonated with every single one of those things that you had listed because I have a lot of fears around what I used to define as success. And even now, taking on a bigger position, I was just asked to be a CEO within a company, and it was like the same kind of thing. Okay, well, that's more responsibilities. Can I handle it? I am comfortable where I am now, but I can be doing so much more. And that's not something to be fearful of. That's something to embrace. And what helped me feel better was that I don't have to make the decisions on my own. There are advisors, there are friends, there are people on your board. There's always somebody that knows a little bit more information that can help you feel more confident in your decisions, which make you more successful and then bring you more confidence in yourself to be successful. So it's kind of like a big feedback loop, a big cycle. So I just thought it was interesting when we start really figuring out what does success mean to me and how is that different from what success might mean to somebody else. Then you realize it's a completely unique experience. So that's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you for saying it, Jordan. Um, yeah, you touched on a point there. I wasn't even going to go there, but I'm glad that you've gone there. Definitely around defining what success means for you, and just building on what you were saying there. Um, it's extremely important to define exactly what does that look like. What does that sound like? What does that feel like? What is success for you? Get it as a tangible thing in one's mind. Because if you're not clear, like really precision, vividly clear on what success is for you, then what are you really doing? You know. So I'm in agreement with you. And staying on this point, there's a lot of people in this world who actually, do you know what? There's a client that I had last year, and don't want to say anything that makes them identifiable, but this particular client, they they had a hell of a lot of anxiety, and very specifically, the anxiety was around the fact that their life is going well. They were terrified because their life is going well. When I say well, I mean it was going well in terms of what she has been brought up and raised to believe is well. So she's anxious because she has a really really great man in her life. Like just amazing partner. Like I mean, I'm close to her life, so I know this to be massively true. So she's terrified because she's got an amazing partner. She's got a great child. She's living in a nice house in a nice area where there's no crime. She's got a great job. Her career's going amazingly. Her managers love her. The bosses love her where she works with various different stakeholders in the organization she works in, think she's amazing, but she's anxious because of it. She's terrified because she has succeeded at all of the things that the society that she's grown up in has told her um, is acceptable and defines success. Absolutely terrified. And my job as her coach was to help her to become comfortable with, accepting of, and okay with where she's at, and also help her to what's the right word, to be okay with choosing her own definition of success, because she had succeeded at all of the things that on paper is what's needed and wanted. I also, this was so fun. So she's white. This lady is white English, and she had a thing around white privilege, and having a problem with having, like, again, conceptualizations of things like white privilege. Obviously everyone's got their own beliefs and all this stuff around this, but specifically with this person, I had to help her to not be so caught up in such concepts, and I had to help her to let go of white guilt and this guilt around this concept of white privilege, blah blah blah. It was actually quite fun exploring that subject, and and I thought it was interesting as well that she come to a black Jamaican geezer or guy to get that support, and I really really loved the fact that she was clearly purposeful enough about going to somebody outside her own culture, clan, community, to get that support. And again, I had so much fun last year, and we got to have a lot of laughs and a lot of jokes around culture and race and all these sorts of things. And she's doing great at the moment. We've gotten past all the stuff around fear and being anxious around the success that she's created for herself, and now we're working on some deep trauma stuff. And again, we're getting to have some real fun around that sort of stuff. But yeah, once you can help people to get out of their own way, and not be afraid of success before it happens, or once it does happen, remove or identify any anxieties around that. There's a lot of really cool stuff that can happen. So thank you, Jordan, for inspiring me to think about that sort of stuff, and definitely stuff around really defining success as a tangible thing. Just want to say hello to Janine. By the way, everyone's welcome up onto the stage. It's not a Darren lecture on hardcore NLP stuff at the moment. Janine, over to you.
Hey, Darren, how are you? Good morning, Jordan.
Good
Um,
morning.
hey, how are you? Oh my goodness, I can relate to the woman you just talked about on the other side of the spectrum, which is being a black female. I had code everything at one point. I had, the husband, the house, the kids, everything, and it was the opposite. It was that I didn't deserve it, and there was a fear that I just didn't belong here, and I was living somebody else's life, and I began to self sabotage. And I learned that much later, of course. And Yeah, because society, tells you as a black woman, you don't deserve to have all that stuff. And people close to you, people are always looking at you a certain way. You could feel it, like, oh, how could you afford that? And what are you doing here? And yeah, yeah, and all these different things. And you start to think, well, man, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here. I shouldn't have this. And yeah, so I began to self sabotage. But, years later, I see myself as worthy now and have fixed a lot of stuff. But yeah, I wish I had had your guidance at that time, Derek, because I wouldn't the whole house of cards wouldn't have collapsed. The foundation would have been strong. I could have fixed it. But I'm heading back in that direction right now. And congratulations, by the way, Jordan, a CEO. Girl, we have to talk. And a lot of great things are happening in my life too. And I've done a lot of work now. I do see myself as worthy. So this is perfect timing. And last night, Darren, in your room, you had asked, I actually asked myself that first question, why do you do what you do? And so I love this morning how you're talking about the things you talked about, because I realized some of the things I do is because I want to be comfortable and accepted. So I love that I got the answer this morning to my underlying, desire to not push myself farther. And that is, fear of not being accepted, fear of, oh, here we go again. I'm looping back, right? Of what society thinks about me. I am pushing forward anyway, but there's still this underlying, um, wow, what do people think of me? And also the desire to be comfortable. Because what it does is I see now in my company, the farther I push myself and the more the company grows, the more challenges that come around. And I'm thinking, oh, can I handle this? How am I going to handle this new level that I'm at? And so I love that you're talking about this. So yeah, thank you very much. It's helping.
Well, again, thank you for coming up to the stage and inspiring even more depth of conversations. And there's a few things that have come up while you were speaking there. What for me anyway. And again, anyone in the room who wants to come on stage and get involved in this conversation, feel absolutely free. Um, Today I wasn't sure. I just knew I was going to come in here and share a couple of points about some of the things that might be underlying fear of success. And it's interesting that I didn't bring race up as a thing on my list of things. So it's really interesting that we've touched on that because I'm telling you, it's fascinating. I mean, there's some stuff that you said about going up in career rise and becoming a director and that sort of stuff, and stuff around being a CEO. And then there's also stuff about the race. So there's two things on my mind from what you just said, Janine, building on everything we're talking about here. Um, but I know people that are white English, because obviously I'm from England, from London, right? So I know people that are white English and they are scared of succeeding because because of mainly around things like white guilt. Um, and I'm just like, what? And then I know other people, and I used to be one of these people myself, who are scared of succeeding because they're black. And then I know other people who are maybe Asian, like Indian, Pakistani, and they don't give a damn about any of this racial stuff. And for this reason, if any of you guys aren't aware, like you guys have got Joe Biden running things over in America. In England, our prime minister in England is an Indian man. The first minister of Scotland, who I think he just quit last week or something like that. First minister of Scotland, the main guy in charge of Scotland, Pakistani guy. Main guy in charge of Wales, I think it was Pakistani or Indian. The mayor of London is a Pakistani Muslim guy. Like it's weird over. I was about to say here in England, but I mean Philippines, obviously. In England, there are so many people who are terrified of succeeding that people of certain races don't get to the top of anything. So in the field of cognitive psychology in the UK, there are no black. Well, in the university academic field and industry that I was in while I was at university doing a couple of things, there was like zero black professors, not because of racism, or not because of what do you call it, racism or institutional racism or people holding anyone back, but literally the black people that I met while I was in the academic environment were all saying the same things. we can't do this and we can't do that. And I remember to some black people I said it out explicitly, and to others I just kept my mouth shut. I just kept it moving. I just remember thinking it and saying it sometimes. I remember thinking, who's we? With this, there's no we out here. I'm doing my thing. Screw this whole like letting your race hold you back thing. Don't get it twisted. I live in the real world. There are some contexts in which there are some really, really mean people in this world, who won't like you because you're black. They won't like you because you're white. They won't like you because you're a woman. There's other people that won't like you because you're a man. In the UK, if you have ginger hair, you are more likely to be bullied if you've got ginger hair as opposed to your skin color. People will judge you based on your hair color, before your skin color in the UK. There is no law protecting people from ginger hair, with ginger hair, from being bullied. It's mad. I've been aware of this my whole life. There's certain areas of England that if you're from it and you tell people that you're from it, you're going to get bullied like crazy. So there's all these other factors based on people's individualized experience of maybe they've been bullied in the past for skin color, hair color, clothing style, sexuality, disability, so on and so forth, that can get in the way of a person being comfortable even with the idea of success. Go ahead, Jordan.
And what if you just take race out of the whole thing in general and just like the people who, like, there have been many times in my life where I felt like I couldn't share my successes because of other people making other people feel badly, or other people that were unhappy, or people that just are get nasty to you because you are successful in their eyes, and that's a projection of, you know, their own views of themselves and maybe their lack of success. And I mean, there's been so that's why I feel like you have to surround yourself with the people who want to do better, who want to root for you, who want you to have successes, because it's like it one person's success does not take away, does not make another person's success any less successful. It doesn't take that away, but rather the more people who are confident and become confident in their success then can collaborate with other successful people, and then it's like you're creating things that you can't even imagine, you know, that, well, we couldn't imagine on our own at least. And that's where I think like the biggest innovations and the biggest changes in society come from. So I think that it's and it's easy to see maybe how race and all of that stuff can also get looped into that. But is it really that? Or is the underlying like root cause really just maybe fear of other people being more successful than you are? I don't know. It just came to my mind.
I was going to say it's lonely at the top. At least that's the perception. And I love what you said, Jordan, that, yeah, when you surround yourself with others who are like minded, then you realize you got that, you actually do have that support. So that was great.
You know, again, building on that, a good handful of years ago, I set up a limited company to sell some products, some merchandise type products, and that. And when about actually, yeah, during Clubhouse, when Clubhouse became extremely big on the scene and exploded during pandemic, I used to love being in the rooms on here which were filled with entrepreneurs, thousands upon thousands. You'd have a room with like 3,000 people in there. That was crazy during lockdown. And there were lots of entrepreneurs talking about business, talking about being a CEO, a director, running a company, all these sorts of things. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I hadn't realized until that point just how much I was holding my own self back from expressing my passion for the subject of entrepreneurship and being a director of a corporate company and all these sorts of things. I hadn't realized how much I was holding my own self back for fear of upsetting the people around me in the UK. Because again, culture, from Jamaicanness or stepping away from the racial stuff. I have spent about 20 years in the music industry here in the UK, in the club and rave music industry in the UK. And the vast majority of people in the rave music industry are on all kinds of drugs, all kinds of narcotics. Again, 100% no judgment. Seen this stuff my whole adult life. Um, but what this kind of brings with it, and again, this is some generalizations incoming here, but a lot of the people that I've interacted with in the music game, um, talking about entrepreneurial stuff or business ownership stuff, it's just not happening. Um, really, a little bit, but not really. And so talking about businessy type stuff amongst such people, it's a no go. And I found that during my early days on Clubhouse, like three, it's almost coming up to 4 years, it will be soon. But during my early days on Clubhouse, I was getting really much more passionate about entrepreneurship and business stuff and la la la. La. And I found that when I went back into my real world in London, trying to talk to people about these things, talking about money and setting up funnels and marketing and business concepts and strategic concepts and all this sort of stuff, I started losing friends. And I was just like, what the hell? I had people like getting angry with me or upset with me or finding all kinds of mean stuff to say to me just because I've said, hey guys, this project that we're working on, we really need to look at where's the income going to be coming in. It's all well and good that we're doing such and such for fun now and it's all creative and la 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 la. But 6 months down the line from now, where's the income going to start coming in? Are we doing this through digital downloads? Are we doing this through live performances? Are we doing this through la 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 la? All the different things that were possible. I'd be listing them, and I'd have people saying things to me like, Darren, do you think you're focusing on money because of the background that you're from? Like weird shit like that. Or people saying stuff like, oh, Darren, you're always thinking about business all the time. And I'm like, we're doing a project to sell some stuff. So wouldn't it be a good idea to think about business? But literally, the more I pressed on talking about business, marketing, all these sorts of things, the more people stopped talking to me. So the business type associates that I had within the music world, um, the vast majority of them don't speak to me anymore because within the underground sort of music world, there's a lot of people that want to do things like make music or perform or whatever, but they don't um, they think that things like business or marketing is selling out, and they think that everything should stay underground, and there's this real underlying belief. So again, while before I came onto Clubhouse, so thank you America, you have a more entrepreneurial attitude than the British vibe. Yay! Is there any reason? Is it? I'm sure you can understand why I love American people. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I've become more American in that particular sense, where I'm all about creating a better life for myself and those that I love, and being more entrepreneurial and really being much more positive about my own business and myself and all this sort of stuff. And I've got that by modeling the generic again, I'm generalizing massively, the generic American attitude, and so on and so forth. You guys have got an American dream. There's no such thing as a British dream. British dream is having some sausage and chips and saying Hail Mary to the King or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, fear of success could be like it was one of the points that I touched on with the 7 points earlier. It could be like fear of losing the people around you because they could become envious or jealous and whatever. And exactly what you guys have said, where you can, how you can surround yourself with the right people. If you don't know how to do that, then why not set up a room on Clubhouse aimed at attracting such people? Create the life you want. If the people in your life, the vast majority of people in your life, are not the kind of people that are going to be the right kind of vibration. They don't have to explicitly support you, but if they're completely off the chart, not the right vibrational match for where it is you are going. No, I'm not saying the vibrational match for where you are, the vibrational match for where you're going, no, the version of you that you're becoming and have become once you've made that switch and that decision. Then with the most amount of love, you kind of got to make it that some people live in your head a lot less, rent free. I don't know what you guys think. I'm just literally sharing my opinion here. Janine, go ahead.
Yeah, two things came up for me. One is the cause of the underlying fear, which unfortunately, of course, I love my mom so much, but my mom is someone who has all her life, even now, carries a lot of fears herself, and I do share with her the things I'm doing in my business, and she'll say, "Oh, how are you gonna do that? Oh my gosh, what are you gonna do?" Uh, and it's not like it's curiosity with fear. Like, so that's tough to live with. It's like I always got somebody around me poking holes in my stuff. And it's like, I've got this. Instead of having a cheerleader type mom saying, I know you could do it. And I'm not saying this as a blame thing or a negative thing. It's just, unfortunately who she's become, because all she's known is fear, and she's not permitted herself to live fully and do the things that she's wanted to do. So she sees me doing these things, and I guess it's scary because she didn't allow herself to do it. So now her daughter's out here doing all these things, and it's scary for her. So that's one thing that came up for me. And now I've forgotten the second thing. That's funny. But it'll come back to me. But yeah, that was one big factor. Is oh, I know what it is. The people around you, and that's family. You said that, family and friends. Because nobody in my family has been an entrepreneur. Everybody's been, blue collar workers. Like regular 9 to 5. I'm the first college graduate in my family, and so, it's all new territory they're seeing, and I guess there was pressure, and that's so they don't know what that looks like. And there's that. And then the other thing I found in my life are religious people. Religious people, for some reason, in certain religions, it's noble to be poor. So there's this concept that's really strong, um, particularly in people I know, that oh, you shouldn't kind of, the idea that it's, I guess, materialistic, or it's, you know and not that, I think success naturally brings things to it that you can afford to purchase certain things, as opposed to wanting those things in itself, and it becomes a natural part of life. And so people see it as, oh, you're wanting stuff now you don't, you're not loving the creator, you're not focused on that. So there's that factor as well, which is tough from a community. So yeah, I feel like it's so important to surround yourself with like-minded people. And I'm beginning to make sure I do that, because there's always this tug of war with other people, in my life, and some of them I can't, move away from. You're kind of stuck with family, right? So yeah, it's really important to have support.
Just triggered a memory of mine from not too long ago. There's a very close family member of mine whose parent died. Their father died, and when their father died, he left behind a whole bunch of money and properties and all this sort of stuff. So this close family member of mine was offered £20,000. £20,000 is probably close to around about $30,000. So money offered for free, tax free, money, cash, offered, and my close family member said, "No, I don't want it, because if I want it, then the government might take away my welfare money. So I don't want your 30,000 bloody pounds." When they said that, I was just like, "What the hell? Come on, take it and pass it on to me." God Almighty. God. Or if you don't want to take, I was even trying to help them find ways around it. If you don't want to take it because you're afraid of losing your government welfare, then how about you tell whoever it is, your brothers and sisters, to give it to me. Not for me to keep it, even though that would have been lovely. Not for me to keep it, but what I can do is then take that money, put it into my business as a director's loan. That's what we call it in the UK. I'm not sure what the US equivalent would be in corporation stuff. But put into my company as a director's loan. And what I'll do is I'll use my company to pay for my relatives' things, and then call it a bloody business expense. Now it's a little bit naughty, just a little bit, but leave it, like refusing money because there's a fear of having too much of it. Like, wow, I've met so many people who are terrified, even when it's like an easy situation, terrified of taking money, terrified of success. There was a lady that I was coaching. She was actually a joy to coach at the beginning of last year, beginning of 2023. And I want to be mindful what I say, but let's just say she was in a senior position within a corporate company, but she wasn't quite director level. Um, and she was terrified before I met her anyway. Ha ha ha. She was terrified of being a director. And she was like, "Oh, I'm happy to stay as the head of blah 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 department, but I don't know about being a director." And I found that quite fascinating. Again, through several conversations and teaching her about concepts around values and limiting beliefs and some stuff around NLP. Um, by the time I was finished with her, she ended up quitting working for the gigantic corporation that she worked for, which is famous all around the world. She ended up quitting working for this corporation, corporate organizations, mixed up the two words, and she moved to another organization. And she became a director of blah 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 blah. Like I said, I don't want to give away too much information. Um, and her whole thing was about her thing was around self-esteem, a lot of stuff around being good enough. I tend to find when I'm working with a lot of women, um, not only women, but it seems to be massively mainly women who I work with around this stuff. I do a lot of coaching with a lot of people who have got issues around the concept of good enough. Now, I don't know where this comes from in society, and ladies, look, notice it's all women in this room. Blimey. Um, uh, but there's a lot of stuff. Maybe you guys could say more to this than I can, because I'm a man. I'm not a bear. I'm a man. Um, but I've done a lot of coaching with a lot of people around this concept of good enough. I'm not good enough. Oh my God, I'm not good enough as a wife. I'm not good enough as an entrepreneur. I'm not good enough as a career woman. And again, with that, I tend to dive into the world of stuff around limiting and empowering beliefs and helping people to understand the concept of beliefs and how you can change your beliefs and address your beliefs and all that sort of stuff. So that's always a lot of fun. So yeah, on the fear of success thing, a lot of it for some people is around being good enough and a strong belief that they're not good enough. And there's a whole bunch of sources and causes for those kind of thoughts. Early life experiences, parents, just as it was Janine just saying, wasn't it, about having a parent that's not necessarily a cheerleader. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? But in the meantime, that's enough for me on that particular point. Over to Jordan, and then after Jordan, Martha. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about being good enough, and I mean women or men, but I feel like women are constantly being, well, we'll start everybody, right? You start off in grade school and you're being judged on numbers, right? What numbers you get, what level you are at reading, what comprehension you have, can you do math? How do you compare to, well, I guess I'm speaking about like a public school. I never went to a private school, so a public school, you're compared by all of that. The boys are able to get up and run around and scream out wrong answers and be stupid. And women, as little girls, you're taught you have to sit there and be quiet and have the right answers and be polite. And that's so we're kind of told from the get go we don't really have the freedom that boys have to express ourselves in those ways, that we should not be acting those ways. Then you start realizing your body image, and then you see magazines and you see movie stars and celebrities and Photoshop, right? Photoshop it was brand new when I was growing up. So now you have these unrealistic ideals of like diet pills and makeup and eat this diet. Even like the diets that you read back from like the 1920s are like have one glass of wine and half of an avocado, like to have the perfect figure. So we're constantly being told we're not good enough if you don't have a tiny figure and I don't know, like big features and perfect skin and the chiseled abs or whatever it might be. We're constantly being told, like, yeah, you're all right, but you're not good enough. Here, with this product, you'll be better. Here, if you do this, you'll be better. If you eat this way, you'll be liked more. If you do this diet, you'll live longer. If you don't eat fat, you won't get cancer. Blah, 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 blah. And as women growing up, learning that we stayed home as wives and we had to be Martha Stewart when some of us can't keep anything organized, it's like a constant battle of masking the way you truly are to this unrealistic ideal that society makes you think you have to be. And it does it on purpose, so that way you keep consuming more and you have these limiting beliefs. But in all of that, I think it takes those kind of extreme sides of the spectrum to be able to realize, like, nah, this is, excuse my language, but this is all fucking bullshit. Like, none of this is real. All these ideals, all this programming have been created with intentions when we did not recognize the reasoning for it. But as you get older and you start to realize the people on the in the movies are older than you were when you were watching them as a kid and you thought they were your age. They have fillers and pictures are photoshopped. Now there's AI that does deep fakes where it can literally take a different person's face and make it seem like you're saying something. And it's just, but I think that all of that is so important because it helps us recognize, like, that the reality of, like, the truth of who we really are and who everyone really is, and that it can help us let go of all those limiting beliefs that are based on all the crap that we got programmed when we were younger. And that helps us become more authentic in ourselves and be able to realize that we are successful and that we can follow our dreams, and that we are the ones that were standing in our way the whole time. And it's not our fault. It's the environment that we grew up in, but we have the power to analyze that now and use our critical thinking and experiment and try different things. And in doing all of that, I feel like you're breaking those ties. But if you didn't have those ties to break it, I mean, no matter what, we're all going to believe something about ourselves that's not true. And we have to prove it to ourselves that it's not true. And when we do that, we start to, it snowballs. You know, we recognize all the other things that we thought about ourselves that simply aren't true. And then I think you kind of, for me, I just started focusing on, okay, well, what is my truth? And when I started following that, it was like Janine said, everything just kind of falls into place. And I don't even think it's like material things come because you can buy more. I think they just manifest. I don't know. It's like they just appear. I feel like I think about something and the next day someone gifts it to me, whether it be a piece of knowledge, something to help me through a hard time, financially, money, gifts. One of my guests brought me flowers the other day for absolutely no reason. And it was just, I don't know. I feel like things just happen when you start to recognize all the fears that we are putting on ourselves, that once you let go of those, they just disappear.
I agree, and thank you for bringing that in, Jordan, and thank you for coming with that the perspective as well. Like I say, certain things I'm aware of it objectively, but certain things I cannot be aware of subjectively. So again, I'm really appreciative of everyone on the stage. Over to Martha.
Happy morning. I guess it's afternoon for you in the UK, Darren. But thank you for inviting me on stage. Jordan, I would say Jordan is right on with that as a woman, growing up, at least in the United States and probably many parts of the world. You're compared to other women, girls. We naturally kind of compete, if you will, in looks and, oh, who has the coolest boyfriend, and I mean, even early on, like, middle school, like, who has the best hairstyle, who has the coolest clothes. It wasn't as cool to be the smartest, 'cause that was me. I was that smart kid. I was the nerd. And going to that, and I think in particular communities, oh, how dare you be smart? Oh, what do you mean you can? Why are you? You better get off your high horse. What's wrong with you? Who do you think you are? Like, I got a lot of those messages, and I don't know if that was an African American thing or an African diaspora thing. I know the UK is heavy Caribbean, UK, Caribbean background. And, I have my daughter's people are Haitian. And although they don't come right out and say things like that, it is very much like, well, who do you think you are? Like, who said you were the queen of whatever. It's always a questioning of one's of your smartness, especially if you are smart. I grew up with that a lot. Like, well, why did you get 100 on the test? Or, even as a full-fledged, professional, I happen to be a physician to this day. I look young. I'm 47, but people think I'm much younger. It's like, so, you can't be the doctor. Must be the nurse. Nothing wrong with being a nurse. But when you get your doctorate or whatever, it's like it gets annoying after they assume that you're the social worker or the nurse all the time because you're a woman. You know what I'm saying? Or because you're black, or because, it's so a lot of, in the military is the same way. Well, who are you? Well, I happen to be the chief of behavioral health. Like, well, how did you get to be a major? Because I worked for it and the military gave me that rank. So it's a lot of questioning, especially when you come from as a woman, especially, and, as a woman of color, I think there's this extra layer, on there. Sometimes it's like you're constantly proving, you're having to prove who you are. And you have to prove that you're good enough. It's like, I was taught, and I will never tell my children this, but, my parents were a product of Jim Crow South. My father, God rest his soul, died in his 80s, and my mom is pushing 80. So they grew up in the South, Jim Crow South. And it's like, you got to be twice as good to get half of the credit. I mean, I heard that my whole life, which is excuse my French, a fucked up message. That's a jacked up message to tell a child, because you grow up with that chip on you, like, oh my God, I got to be twice as good to get half the credit. So already you come in with like, okay, based on your gender and based on your race, like, you come in feeling like you're not good enough. Like, you just, depending on what part of the United States or the world you're growing up in, it's like, oh yeah, there's this race thing. Oh yeah, there's this gender thing. Oh yeah, there's this, Southern American thing. Oh, there's this socioeconomic thing, because, my parents weren't rich. They were a cook and a teacher, so it's like, okay. And so people are always constantly trying to, quote unquote, put you in your place. You know what I'm saying? And I had to, it took me a while to break out of that. It's like, no, you don't get to tell me how high I can go. You don't get to tell me what you think I can do, because I am smart and I am more than capable. And yes, I can do it better than you. And I had to really step into that power, because people want to peg you, especially as a woman, into where they think you're supposed to be. And it's very, very irritating. And I see that, I'm not Caribbean and I don't want to speak for Caribbeans, but I see that in the Caribbean culture as well, having sisters-in-law who are Caribbean. It's like, oh no, I can't leave my mom and my kids here. Like, why the hell not? You're a grown ass woman. You can take a vacation by yourself. No, I can't. No, no, I can't leave my mom. I'm like, I'll check on her. Like, first of all, she's fine. Like, but if you're that worried, like, I'll ride across Dorchester. I'm in Boston, and I'll check on her. Like, no, I can't leave my kid. Your kids are 14 and 17. They will be happy to see mommy go on vacation. Like, they're fine. But it's this, no, I can't do it. I'm not allowed. It's this over obligatory, stuff that we grow up with. And that's why we feel like we're not good enough, because society has just told us, nope. Yeah, you're smart, but you can't be too smart, because you'll think you're better, and you can't think you're better than anybody because you're on your high horse. And, let me just remind you to get off that high horse, and it's like, I mean, I remember so vividly, I went through a medical challenge, and so I went through part-time, and then I got this job where I made more money. And, I'm thankful, as a psychiatrist, I don't have to work too hard for money. And I went to medical school partly for that reason. But I never forget, my mom was like, oh, you're better now. And oh, I guess you got back on your high horse. And that just hurt me so badly. Like, because she was I mean, she had been my primary motivator. She was the first person I told I was going to be a doctor, and she was like, okay, let's do that thing, because she was the first one in her family to go to college. She was a teacher. But for her to tell me that after feeling so much better from my medical challenge, and feeling like, okay, yeah, I can take on more hours, and that was the first thing that came out of her mouth. Oh, I see you got back on your high horse now. And it's like, what? Like seriously? My own mother. So we get these messages, especially from family members. I mean, I grew up like, you think you're better than everybody else because you went to medical school and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you think that. That's your inferiority complex kicking in. And I would talk like that. I would say it just like that. And so I always grew up with knowing that people are just, crabs in a bucket. They are ready to just pull you back down, and I was always that crab that was like, get off of me. You ain't pulling me back in this bucket. So that's what a lot of women, men too, but women especially. And don't be a smart woman. Like, don't be a woman that, has some credentials, or some degrees behind your name, or have done something great. It's just like, ugh, well, who do you think you are? I mean, I've got so many snubbed up, turned up noses from other women. Like, she did what? She tried to do what? Like how? I don't do that now. I don't deal with that now because I know who to surround myself with. I only surround myself with other champions, with other people who want you to succeed, with other business minded, growth minded people, with spiritually attuned people. Notice I didn't say religious because you're right. A lot of times, in Christianity, you're taught, what did they tell us in Sunday school? The root money is the root of all evil. No, the lack of money is the root of all evil. I'm gonna go back to Reverend Ike. The lack of money is the root of all evil because that's when people start thieving and stealing and doing all kinds of stuff to get it. Okay, like anyway, I yield. Thank you for this beautiful room, Darren.
Oh, thank you and the other ladies who are contributing towards that question that I threw out there. What the subjective component of what it's like being a woman, specifically around that concept of good enough. Because again, this is one of the main underlying reasons for fear of success out there in the world. And again, I wasn't as aware of this stuff until over the last year or so, because about a year ago I dived deeply into the subjects around imposter syndrome and started looking at it from an academic perspective. And the more I've gone into looking at imposter syndrome from an academic perspective, the more I've seen that the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of the key studies done in around the subject of imposter syndrome are mainly around women. And the imposter syndrome is found mostly around women from ethnic minorities, but generally across the board around the planet. It's around women. The whole concept of imposter phenomenon, imposter syndrome, came out of two academic researchers noticing that professional women that have achieved a lot in their career felt like they were imposters and they didn't feel they were good enough. And from those studies in the early 70s, a whole thing arose around this concept of imposter syndrome, and again the concept around being good enough. I did a workshop a couple of months ago. I believe Jasmine was there, who's in the room at the moment, around this particular subject, and it just it yeah, this whole subject has leveled up my
And I was there
understanding.
too. Ah.
Yes. How sorry. Sorry, Janine. Yes. Yeah, Janine and Jasmine, cracking the two J's. Um, yeah, and even just looking, I mean, it was a subject I was already heavily familiar with, but just revising some of my knowledge so I could deliver that particular workshop. Just, it just gave me a more massive appreciation for what it is that a lot of women have to go through. And again, I focus on women specifically because the two businesses that I own, my customers are predominantly women. So I own a clothing company. So I'm currently in the Philippines and Southeast Asia at the moment, um, and the vast majority of my customers are women. And I remember once looking at the statistics on my sales on the back end of my website last year, and it was just like 90 something percent female customers, hardly any men. So I just stopped making so many basic t-shirts for men and just start focusing on crop tops and boob tubes and vest tops and all this sort of stuff. So I have to be really mindful of that in my clothing business. And then, as Janine and Jasmine all know, um, all of the trainings that I've done when I teach NLP and I coach people using NLP, and all of the trainings that I've done for the last 3 years, 99% of the people that have shown up to my trainings and workshops and masterclasses are all women. I used to think it was just because of my dashing good looks, but no, it's not that. Um, there's, I mean, again, there's a whole, we could do a whole room around this subject some other day. Um, but there's something around the energy. So, for those of you that are aware of things like masculine and feminine energy, it would seem that there are some. Firstly, the work that I do is a heavily feminine energy sort of line of work. It's a very helping profession thing. In addition to that, there is a lot of women that like to work with me because um, well, my assumption is we don't 100% know. I assume, based on my research, that that's around people perceiving me as having masculine energy, but also having great access to sort of feminine energy way of doing stuff. And I like to think I'm rather balanced, maybe a little bit more towards the masculine. But I hope this is making sense to people that are into this sort of stuff. I only got into this way of looking at things a couple of years ago. It's quite a useful way of looking things. But yeah, so the more I understand about about the needs of my customer and my particular target audience, the more it helps my life. Do you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, fear of success, definitely. Some of these subjects, some of these things have come up again and again and again and again with my female customers. Um, so yeah, but it's interesting that this room today, it's it's only women who have come to this room. It happens again. It's interesting. Sherry, hello.
Is it okay if I jump in before Sherry?
Yeah, everyone go ahead. Feel free. Everyone cut in whenever you feel like it, as long as you all respect each other. All good.
I just wanted to respond to what you just said and also to what the other lady said about women and our sense of not good enoughness. But what you just said, um, it's interesting to me that you have 99% women, but then when I reflect on, particularly as a quote mature woman, I'm finding, in the dating world, I'm a divorced woman and I'm a date. And I find that a lot of men are not really interested in change or changing or improving who they are. I think, particularly when they reach, I guess, a certain milestone in life, they feel like they're just fine who they are. They don't really want to expand or be introspective. I think they think it's too late or like they're just fine. And I find the women I know in my life are willing to still grow and be flexible and learn and do new things. And it's kind of frustrating, to meet someone and I'm like, okay, well, what work have you done yourself in it? They're they're not doing any work. They're just
Crickets, crickets.
yes. They're just living their life. And I'm like, okay, well, you're not dead yet. I mean, if people are living longer, you potentially got another 30, 40 years to do stuff. What are you going to do? And they're like, I don't know. They haven't make any plans for the next 5 years. Are you kidding me? And they're looking at me, oh, you're wonderful. You're this, you're that. And I'm like, I guess I'm just living
I
my life.
know I'm
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, I know it, but what are you going to do? What are you doing? Like, okay, let's join me on this quest. And nah, where do you want to go? Where do you want to travel? Well, where do you want to travel? And I list like 10 places they haven't thought about anywhere. Well, I'll go with you. I'm like, well, I want to know what you want to do. Like, so that there's that
Oh,
piece. And then there's
yes.
I wanted to go on to a little bit. Unfortunately, Darren, I hate to tell you, some of our insecurities as women, I feel, and I'm not because of men, but there is a result of, I think, women trying to please men. And now there's this culture now of women modifying their bodies, and in the dating world, you come out here and as an older person, it's weird because it's like the pressures of, yes, somebody mentioned looking, you know, the perfection, but I'm an older female. So it's like, okay, well, I have a few more limitations that I did when I was in my 20s and dating. It's different. So I feel, men still have these requirements and they'll tell you certain things. I'm like, wait a minute, you got to be kidding me. We're definitely a little more mature. Things do go south a little bit. They're not the same. We might be attractive. Yeah, it's just the truth. But they'll still have these crazy requirements. And then I think women are still, now there are new opportunities to jump through hoops because of these surgeries, BBLs and Botox and things are doing, women are doing all these kinds of things in order to get men's attention. I think yes, they do it for themselves in some cases, but it's gotten like crazyville out here. So um yeah, women are jumping over more hoops now than ever to appease men or appeal to men. And then some men will just even tell you, oh well, sorry to be a little bit uh, you know, uh, maybe not crude, but it's just the way it is. Either your butt's not big enough or it's maybe too big, you need to lose weight. Yeah, it's this kind of stuff. And then you start looking at yourself, well, wow, my body, is my body and it's the way it is. And you have to learn to love and accept yourself just as you are. So there's that element when you're in a dating world that you feel, this pressure from men. So yes, it's
Yeah.
very few and far men who will just accept you as you are.
Yeah. I
And
had a guy tell me
just
I
want to
was
add
a
that.
5. I
Ouch.
said, "Are you kidding
Oh
me?"
yes, yes. And there's this new thing
I said,
called
"A 5," and
misogyny.
I feel
Yes,
like I'm kind of cute, right? Like
right? And this
I said, "A
hyper
5?"
masculine misogynistic thing saying that if you're past a certain age, you're kind of done, right? I know you've heard
Yeah.
that one. I'm like, get the hell out of here. This is craziness.
5. I said, "Bruh." I said, "5." And here he comes out, and again, I'm not body shaming, but I mean, he could have stood to lose. I mean, he was morbidly obese. Just put it like that. Again, not body shaming anybody, but he's gonna have the nerve to tell me I'm a 5. I was like, "Excuse me." I broke it down. I was like, "Nah, brother. Mm-mm. You got the wrong one if you think I'm a 5." I don't know what your meaning of a 5 is, but that's not my meaning. But yeah, they're that blunt. I'm like, okay, bye.
Yes, I hate to tell you that, Darren. I don't know if you're aware, some of your brethren are just out of pocket, as they say.
They really
But
are.
I wanted to add that little piece. And then they themselves are really not doing that much, you know.
Exactly.
And it's funny, you're judging me and you're not
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
what are you doing? I don't
Yeah.
understand. So, but I,
Exactly.
I did meet someone very nice, guys. So he's a very nice person, seems to be. So we'll see how that goes. I'll fill you in later, Jordan.
You're killing me right now. Oh, just give me a million ideas for different interesting rooms and conversations to have. Right, I'm doing 13 minutes overtime at the moment. I try to keep these things for an hour. We've been here for a little while, but this is a really, really, really interesting conversation, I think. Um, Sherry, let Sherry speak if you're still there, Sherry. Yeah, hello.
Hello, how are you? Yes, I'm definitely still here, enjoying the conversation, and I saw the topic in the hallway and was like, okay, let me jump in here. So, the fear of success, huh? Why? What the? You know what? Because I wrote a poem some years ago called "Who Told You," and it was for my mother around Mother's Day. Um, and I wrote this poem saying, "Who told you that you couldn't be and that you shouldn't be? Who told you to let go of your dreams? Who told you that you weren't good enough? Who told you?" Right? And so it goes on and on. But and then of course, in what they told her, she what then told me, right? And so I had to really find out who Sherry was. And when I got to be an adult, that's why I say people, it's no more time for excuses, because when we become adults, we have the power to take back our lives and control some things and figure some things out. And although my mother always, I'm an only child. She loves me, y'all. I'm actually on travel with her right now. She's in the other room. If anything happens to her today or tomorrow, I would lose my absolute mind. But my mother was very negative. She worried about everything and anything. My mother went to a PWI here in DC, graduated after she had me. I saw her go to school, but she never saw her accomplishments. She never acknowledged all that she has done. She never has paid attention that the homes that she's bought, the investment properties that she's bought, she's always seen it as a failure. Every time something happens and goes wrong, she highlights that versus highlighting the positives. So you can only imagine growing up as an only child, some of the things that I had to fight through to just be happy. I would say to her, like, Mom, why can't you just be happy? Why are you so mad? What's wrong? Right? At little, I remember saying that, like, Mommy, why are you unhappy? And so I really had to fight through that and figure that out for my own, you know, and including some of my own health issues that I'm battling. And a few years ago, she went with me to a speaking engagement because she used to always say that I was telling my business. I'm a speaker, and she'd tell me I'm telling my business. Why are you out here telling your business? And one day I invited her to go with me. When I woke up, I looked out my back window and it faced a tree, a forest. I had trees in my backyard, y'all, that was beautiful, the leaves and everything. And I looked out that morning and I was like, Lord, I love it. Look at these leaves. This is absolutely beautiful. Oh my goodness. And I go pick up my mom. I get to her house. She gets in my car and she says, these daggone leaves just get on my nerves. I'm so sick of these leaves. Every time I turn around, I got to pay the man to pick up these daggone leaves. And I pulled back up in the driveway. And I said, Mom, we're going to start all over. We're going to do this again. I was like, good morning. How are you? Look at the beautiful leaves, right? You see the beauty in the leaves? And we pulled on down the driveway. And she looked at me. She said, you really get me, don't you? And we kept on going down the road. My mother heard me share for the first time. I've been a speaker over 25 years. This was the first time she had ever been to any of my engagements. So I get there, and on the way back, she helps me at the vending table and everything. And she loving it. She's loving it because she's a hospitality type of gal. She loves it. So we get on back to the house. My mother mailed me a card. She couldn't even tell me, which is okay. I don't have a problem with that. But she mailed me a card a few days later. And in the card, it said that you have become the woman that I always wanted to be. The things that you're doing, where you're going, how you're doing it, I've always wanted to be. She has this saying that she'll say, who raised you? Sometimes she'll say to me, who raised you? And I told her, I picked up the phone after I got the card and after I wiped out my tears, of course. I picked up the phone and I said, Ma, I said, do you realize that I am who you are, I am because of you? That you are all that I've seen accomplishing her goals, knocking down her dreams. Don't you realize that I got it from you? Don't you even see that my mother used to work for workforce development here in the county, and she was doing workforce development trainings with the Welfare to Work program. I used to go see her doing these things, right, and encouraging women to get off of this assistance. And I used to see her doing this, you know. And I said, "Don't you see where I get it from?" And she finally realized. She was like, "I didn't even know you were paying attention." I was like, wow, how couldn't you see that I was paying attention? I was right there with you, right? So I think sometimes people don't necessarily see their accomplishments because they're so blinded and so seeing all of the negatives. And so when they see the negatives, it's very hard to see the successes. And my mother has a degree and I don't. I ended up dropping out in my junior year of college because I got pregnant with my twins. Right? So she doesn't even see, Ma, you've been doing so many amazing things. You've reached a level of success that your mother and father did not even reach, right? But she can't even see that. So I think that with my twins, the fear of success, I raised them to focus on narrowing and writing the blueprint for their vision and for their dreams, for just getting a job. Because like I told them, you can work a job and work towards nothing, or you can work towards your dream and build anything. And so, they did amazing though. My twin, they both graduated from college and they're doing awesome. But they, I think that, Fear of success comes from, of course, what was told to us, what our environment produced for us. And but once we become adults, we have to aim to do different, want different, and the success sometimes requires work. And sometimes people don't want to put in the work it requires. When you go away for a 4 year university, like I heard a young lady say, she's has her degree, and I think you said PhD too. Um, that requires work. That requires commitment, consistency, dedication, right? Tapping into yourself and finding out exactly what it is that you want to do. Many people don't even have they have no clue what it is that they want to do. How can they? Their dreams have been buried by so many people around them, the world, even. Sometimes, even within me, as the motivator. And I'm the motivator. And sometimes I'll be even overwhelmed by the world. I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, Lord, what is going on out here? Like, Lord, maybe I need to just sit down for a minute. I don't want to go nowhere. They shooting at the movie theater. Are you, you know what I mean? So I think that sometimes we become buried um, by the surroundings and unable to get out of that that funk. And of course, like we know, jobs are just over broke, and we end up working these jobs and feeling defeated and depleted, and then we say that we don't have enough time to focus on our dreams and the things that we love to do. Well, I want to shift the atmosphere and share with people that we do have enough time to do what we want to do and the dreams that we have, because we can. And I just wish more people would see it. I love the topic, fear of success. What you're afraid of. What you're afraid of. And I can be honest and say, that I've been a freepreneur. I've been a free speaker for years. Not until I got on Clubhouse and met an amazing guy who actually put me on the path to actually making money with it. But I can say that maybe my fear of going into the entrepreneurial space is because I had never seen it before. I didn't know. I was like, who, me? Like, I can be the motivator. I can go out and talk. But you want me to charge people for it? Like, I need to pay people to tell them to do better. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And he was like, "You've invested $20,000 and become a certified life coach. The classes you've taken, and you don't think that other people need to pay?" And I was like, "No, why would they do that?" And he was like, "Of course they should." And so yeah, I think it's just that what you've been around. So I had to get myself into this. I can make money from this. I guess you're right. Especially when you're treading in new waters. So yeah, I think it comes from a multitude of different places. But great topic. I always love your rooms, Darren. I'm not on here as much as I used to be, but I'm glad I came in this morning. Thank you for letting me
Mhm.
share.
That's a worth thing too, Sherry. I see that a lot in women who are entrepreneurs. Like, what? I got to charge? And so it's like it's a worthiness thing as well. The free 99 is over. We got to be charging for our services. Good for you.
You guys are touching on a lovely subject that there'll be one or two rooms around in this coming week around things like fears around money and this sort of stuff and sales. Um, for those of you who are new to me and the spaces that I host on here, I run rooms in about three different clubs. This one and another club that's specifically just for people learning about NLP only, and then another one for people around stuff to do with psychology and neuroscience and stuff. I tend to show up on Clubhouse at 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Um, and that tends to be the thing, and sometimes I run extra rooms if I've got time on my hands. But I try to be on here at least twice a day in the mornings and evenings because I love it. and it's great. I get to meet a lot of people, and obviously, I'd love to funnel you into my live. No, I'm joking. But no, in all seriousness, I'm really, I've had a really, really great chat with all of you today. This has been amazing. This is great. There's a couple of friends of mine who messaged me just after the room started because there's something about the room topic that obviously made their brains tick. And one person messaged me on WhatsApp, is like, Darren, I've seen the name of your room, but I don't come on Clubhouse anymore. I just messaged them back saying, I'll send you the recording after this is done. And they were like, oh, thank you. So, you guys, that your great words and contributions are going to carry across to some of my friends in the UK that need to hear this stuff. I did this room today with this particular title because I just thought there seems to be a lot of people in the world right now that need to hear this stuff, and this kind of energy discussing these sorts of things needs to be more out there. It's 8:25 at night for me here in the Philippines. The next room will be happening at 7 o'clock. Hold on, I'm confusing myself. So 7 a.m. for me tomorrow will be 7 p.m. for those of you in the Eastern Standard Time. But that will be happening tomorrow my time, today your time. Right, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll confuse myself even more. Jordan, Janine, Martha, Sherry, Miss Sharp, Jasmine. Again, thank you for sharing your time with us today. This has been fun. Right, I'm out of here. This is getting too soppy. Stepping to my manly self. I'm gonna go buy some ice cream because it's blazing hot here at 8:30 at night, and the sun is not the sun. The heat is killing me. The sun's gone down. It's still crazy hot. Take care of yourselves, everyone. And again, thank you for all your lovely contributions. And I hope to see you all around soon. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.